Hello teacher, my name is Simyi. I am majoring English literature in the University of Cambodia, and today I am really honored to be here to present about my topic, which is Cambodia in French colonialism, 1863 to 1952. Let's move to our first slide, which is the introduction. Cambodia in French colonialism started from 1863 to 1953 in Khmer ប្រទេសកម្ពុជាក្រោមអាណាព្យាបាលបារាំង and status is protectorate of France, constituent territory of French Indochina. Cambodia at that time adhered to monarchy. City of Cambodia from 1863 to 1865 was Udong, and from 1863 to 1953 was Phnom Penh. Cambodian religion Theravada, Buddhism, Roman, and Catholicism. During that time, there were four kings: King Norodom from 1863 to 1904. King Sisawat from 1904 to 1927, Sisawat Manivong from 1927 to 1941, and Norodom Sihanouk from 1941 to 1953 for the first time. And languages used in Cambodia in French colonialism are French and Khmer, but French is more official than Khmer. Another slide from the second point, which is history of regime. King Ong Duong worried that Siem and Annam would be aggressive and take Cambodia land. For the solution, King Ong Duong had to find the powerful kingdom that could protect us. So King Ong Duong contacted the French two times, the first time in 1853 and second time in 1856. King Ong Duong contacted the French again. Cambodian king told the French to take the province that Annam had taken from Cambodia back, but the search of an appointment had failed because of Siem. Until 11 August of 1863, King Norodom signed an agreement with the French, placing the kingdom under the protection of France. The originally treated left Cambodian sovereignty intact and protected Cambodia from aggressive Thailand and Vietnam. But from 17 June 1884, French term colonized. French control gradually increased with important landmarks in 1877, 1884, and 1897, until by the end of the century, the king's authority no longer existed outside the palace. For the third point, it is social, culture, and religion. In 1884, to strengthen the army, the French sent weapons to Cambodia. There were swords and guns that had been sent to police in Phnom Penh. In 1885, the French had built a port in Phnom Penh city. In the same year, the French built Kosumak Hospital to take care of the French army. From 1885, the French army increased from 60 people to 1,200 people. From 1890, the French took Chlong-Le, Mondolgiri in 1893, Stung Treng in 1904, Mluprey, Tulpo, and Trat in 1907, which located in Bat Dambong, Siem Reap, and Srei Sapuan. France opened the library in 1924 and the National Archives to house the books and some files. For the next slide, which is the fourth point, it is politics. In the first 10 years after the establishment of the rule of Cambodia, France implemented a number of reforms, such as reducing the power of the monarch and abolishing slavery. Sivoda, the same father and brother of King Norodom, led a rebellion in 1885, attempting to overthrow Norodom, supported by France, and seize the throne. Norodom was forced to exile to Siem. The French army quickly quelled the rebellion, thereby continuing to expand its political privileges. With the support of Norodom and French opponents, Sivota led a rebellion mainly in the Cambodian jungle and Kampot city, where Oknya Krala Hong Kong led the resistance movement. According to the agreement to disarm the Cambodian people and recognize the residents general as the supreme power of the protectorate, the French army later helped Norodom defeat Siwatha. Oknya Kerala Hong Kong was recalled to Phnom Penh to discuss peace with King Norodom and French officials, but was captured by the French army and subsequently killed. The rebellion officially ended. The fifth point is economics. The greatest economic source of the government is taxation, of which Cambodia's per capita tax is the highest. Early Cambodian protected countries are very late. The French people are also unstable with their economic management. This means that the speed of the fluctuation early Cambodian protected countries are very late. The French people are also unstable with their economic management. This means that the speed of infrastructure and urbanization in Cambodia is slower than in Vietnam. Under the same French rule, and the traditional social structure of Cambodia still exists in the village. However, after the Wizard of Siam, country's economy began slowly. The French opened to Cambodia in the rubber plantation of the French and Annan. In the 1920s, the economy began to grow, diversified, corn and cotton grew. Despite this, Cambodia's per capita tax is still high, leading to the tax cuts demonstration in 1916. Cambodia. The French have also begun to build highways, the French have also begun to build highways and railways in Cambodia, including Phnom Penh, Madang Railway. France has begun to develop industry later, mainly producing industrial raw materials for local use or export. Most of the economies in Cambodia are managed by Europeans, Vietnamese, which was recruited to the rubber garden, and the fishermen and merchants of immigrants and merchants in the development of the Cambodia economy. Most of the Chinese in Cambodia still engage in business. For another slide, it is the education. Another slide, it is the declining of regime. On 9 March 1945, Japan coups French. On 12 March, King Sihanouk declared Cambodia independent. The French had come back on 16 October 1945. After French oppression and exploitation, many Cambodians rose French. At that time, there was a resistance motion divided into two violent resistance motions and non-acute resistance motion. The violent resistance movement is led by Khmer Israt. At that time, there were a lot of people with 1 million supporters. The demonstrations of French friends will return independently to Cambodia. After all, non-horror resistance is led by the Prince of Norway, No. On February 9, 1953, the Prince Norwegian left Sihanouk for France. He sent 2 copies of information letters to French. But France just welcomes him there. There's no discussions of political Cambodia. On April 11, 1953, he went to Canada. Then on April 12, 1953, he held a press conference in Canadian radio station, which stated this: the announcement of Khmer Israt and communism had a great impact on the people ruling the Kingdom of Cambodia. He later went to Manchester, United States. The U.S. Secretary of State promises that he is satisfied with this independence in Cambodia. He will help Cambodia get completely independent after the War of Hindu branch. Then he held a press conference with the new press conference. Then in Cambodia, Siem Reap, Kampong Thom, and Battambang, 400,000 men and women voluntarily joined the courageous female militia following Norwegian Sihanouk in the independence struggle. On November 9, 1953, France was fully independent of Cambodia. The last slide, which is the conclusion. In conclusion, there are a lot of advantages and disadvantages when it comes to French colonialism. The advantage is that the French had created a school, helped us research our history, and promoted the civilization of Khmer. Moreover, helped Cambodia fix the temple, and the French helped us take the 7 provinces back from Siem. There are Koh Kong, Mlupray, Tu Po, Stung Treng, Battambang, Bong, Siem Reap, and Srei Sapuan. In 1908, the French had checked the Dong Rek map. It is very important to win the case in Paris here. And the disadvantages is French oppress Cambodians and collect high taxes for Cambodian people, no matter if they are poor. It is the reason that Cambodian people become poorer and poorer. The French had collected Cambodian people to join the army in World War I and World War II. Some Cambodian land in the east by the Mekong River, French had given to Ko Sang Sin in 1893. On 31 January 1939, French had including Cotrol to Ko Sang Sin. On 4th of June 1949, French crosses the territory of Cambodia Kram to Vietnam. Filters collected by the Cambodian Ministry of Agricultural and Rural Development. So this come to an end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening and paying attention. Goodbye, teacher.